Welcome everyone to a very special episode of Dad Bod Life. Today is a very exciting time. We're going to interview Hybrid Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is the most respected Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym here in Kitsap County, Washington. We're going to interview the professor, we're going to interview brown belts, we're going to interview black belts. We're going to interview all kinds of students and see what the inside look of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym such as Hybrid has to offer their students. Please follow me as we take this very, very exclusive inside look. Welcome back, everybody. We have a very special guest, Mr. Professor George Hisson. It is an honor to be inside of his gym here and interview him. We have a few questions from Dad Bod Life. So if you're okay with it, Professor, can we get started?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Please.
So the first question that my followers want to know is, how long have you been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
With Marcelo, when he came from Brazil, around 25 years, and then I was dabbling in it about a year before that.
When you say dabbling, like training here and there?
You know, it is funny that you bring that up because, that was the starting of the UFC in the early, about 93-ish.
Oh.
Was, and you see this little skinny tall guy come in and kick everybody's butt, and you're just like in a gi.
Are you talking about Mr. Hoist Gracie?
Yeah, and so Hoist is there, and it's like, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I did like a lot of guys. I got their videos, their intermediates, the beginnings, intermediate, and advanced, and started playing around with that at home and with some people. But it was just more unorganized, until Marcelo came, and I started learning from the other side of the family. And if you're not sure on it, I can explain that too. But yeah, so
would you mind explaining that just for the audience?
You've got the Elio side, and we can go way back to the beginning when Maida came, Count Como, to bring his judo. They called it, they coined it combat judo, which basically is jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
In Japan. And they didn't like it because in Japan they have pre-arranged engagement matches they call sparring. So you know what I'm going to do and I know what you're going to do.
Which is completely unrealistic in a real world application.
And Count Como said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to have free sparring. Oh, no, that's frowned on. So he heard that in Brazil, they welcome. It's easier to immigrate for the Japanese. And so he came there, and the Gracies now, they've always been really involved in politics, which a lot of people don't know. Oswaldo Gracie, if you see a picture of him, he still has his kilt on.
Really?
Yeah. So, I can't remember if they were Scottish or Irish initially. And then came to Brazil, married Brazilian women. So they brought Count Como over, and Carlos Gracie now said, hey, if you train my sons, then I will help you immigrate, make it easy on you, blah, 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 and all that. So that's how basically the ball got rolling, and then, then there's lots of stories on Elio being the sickly kid and would come and watch all the time. And then there was a time where one of the brothers didn't show up to teach, so he taught. He stood in and taught, and everybody loved it. Started his legacy of teaching. Everybody knows Holmes Gracie, phenomenal guy. Well, this academy, everybody was in this academy teaching. Carlson Gracie Sr., Holes, they were the main instructors. When Holes died, then the family, I can't remember which, if Elio started teaching or whatever, and they sort of had a split there. You also know the Santana story where Elio was fighting, all challenge matches.
Correct.
So he fought his old student Santana, a big rock layer.
I did not know that.
It went about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and they finally threw in the towel because they thought Elio was going to get really hurt. Well, Carlson said, well, okay, I want to avenge my uncle. So he challenged him a short time later and beat him in about 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh.
Well, that caused a big rift. So that's when Carlson's line, Elio's line, which is called pretty much Gracie JiuJitsu, Carlson's line, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh.
Carlson would train anybody. Didn't have to be Gracie blood. He goes, if you're a loyal student to mine, I show you everything. So, and that's just sort of how it started coming about. Marcelo was one of Carlson's top instructors, top students. When he left to, I think it was LA area, to meet up with his son, Carlson Sr. did. he put Marcelo in charge of all of his, called them champion factories, his schools. He referred to Marcelo as encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu.
Really?
My Marcelo Alonso, yeah. And so it's a great honor to have Marcelo come and be like amazing, just amazing. And when you have the lights of Morelli Bustamante, Mario Sperrio, Vito Belfort, all these guys, heavy hitters, it's amazing. And then when he came here, which we can't do anymore, he'd open his school and have challenge matches. You come and do whatever you want to me, punch me, kick me, I'll choke you out. He did. He had all different guys. He had black eyes, but he said, hey, you do. Nowadays, it's probably not as practical because you get sued.
Yeah,
but
it's very litigious.
He showed that,
day.
it's like, this is real. And he carried on the Gracie tradition.
Oh, man. And that Gracie tradition, from my research, and I'm sure a lot of our followers know, is the Gracies and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu did those challenge matches in the 80s. They have the old footage of, all these different martial artists coming in and, trying whatever they have. And the Gracies would just get them to the ground or whomever. And we're talking white belts, and could get a black belt to the ground. And then I've heard this analogy, and I'm sure you can definitely verify this, but just like a swimmer, if they don't know, or somebody that doesn't know how to swim in water, right? They start to drown, they panic and drown. Similar in a fight, if somebody gets to the ground and doesn't know what they're doing, it's almost like drowning on the ground. If you have a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that can be comfortable in those situations and really know how to...
Exactly. It's just, another example I heard is like quicksand. You try to make more and more movements. The more movements you make, the more wrong movements you make, the more
panic.
You get sucked into it.
Yeah.
Panic. And that's the hard thing, people don't, they don't realize Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's a martial art, it's a martial art. And people are like, well, it was brand new. Yeah, but Jiu-Jitsu's been around forever. They just refined it. The Gracies took it and they said, I want to make it more technical, the ground portion of it. Mm-hmm. We got judo that incorporates ground, but they don't do as much ground as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu doesn't do as much stand-up,
Doesn't need to, though.
I mean, Jiu-Jitsu goes, oh, that's just a ground sport. No, they're stand-up grappling, getting up against a wall and all that. In combatives, before I'm pretty much to the end of my time, but I was also a combatives instructor too. Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of combatives where we incorporate Muay Thai, boxing, counter wrestling, Jiu-Jitsu, all that. And so clinch, pummel, everything.
Right.
And so but in all of those aspects, especially clinching up, Jiu-Jitsu shines. I mean,
and it's known as the gentle art, according to my research as well. And it's interesting because Helio Gracie, being such a small individual at the time, was choking out or submitting competitors that were far bigger than he was. And even in his own style, he just knew the physics behind Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and knew how to manipulate the joints properly and knew how to relax and breathe and just use his body better than any of his opponents. And
that's exactly Caio Terra. I don't know if you've ever followed him.
No.
He's rooster weight. He's about 128 pounds. I met him at a tournament one time where I was competing the Vegas Open, and he just won his weight class in rooster weight, and he was fighting the absolute, and he won that. And he had big guys, some Brazilian guys and all that, super heavies. He beat him. He submitted him.
Even the heavy Brazilian guys.
He's
wow.
so technical, and he told me, he goes, I don't have a choice. I have to become technical. I can't make them, I'm not stronger than they are. I'm not as strong. I don't have the body weight. I don't have that crushing power. I'm not that flexible, he even said, but I have to be technical. And man, I mean, he raises a bar on the technical Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor.
And for any of the Star Wars fans out there, I feel like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is almost like using the Force somehow. It's almost magical in a way when you see an individual when, it almost, they're on the ground and they're comfortable, they're on their back and they're comfortable and they impose a guard or they get out of a situation and they can manipulate their body. And Matrix is maybe a better analogy or something, but it's incredible. And then all of a sudden they've taken the back of their opponent and that person's going to sleep now. And it's like, what the heck just happened? It's amazing to see that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
To become the rank of a professor, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because that's such a respected title. How many stripes, or is it dans on your black belt? What's the stripes? What's the respectful term? And
It's changed.
okay,
I sort of followed the old school way, Marcelo way. In Brazil, you had to be the rank of 3rd degree black belt to even file to become a professor. Now, the ruling is if you own a school, a person without any stripes can be considered a professor. Teach his own on that. Each stripe up to 3rd degree is every 3 years, and then 4th degree is your 5 years,
wow,
and 5th degree is 5 years. Then 6th degree is 7 years.
holy smokes! So that's a lifetime
Yeah.
of training.
And you get to 7th degree. Marcelo's next stripe is 7th degree. He becomes a coral belt, that black and red,
Yes.
around. So, and that even, I mean, as you go up in stripes, there's less and less of those black belts, and then you hit coral belt, and that even makes it more so.
So unique in the industry, and in the world. You're
And they've raised the level at people. Oh, they're all old and stuff. They've basically what they've done is their angles. It's all about angles, leverage, and all that. They've made it a science of perfecting that, making people understand, or helping to make people understand that if I take this angle, take them out of this slight, maybe 10% of the angle, it changes the whole aspect. They have to reset themselves, and that gives me my opportunity. And I'm like, yeah. If we have people like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before. I'm like, that's why I'm so adamant about jiu-jitsu on looking at all the angles, and that's why I won't say it's never boring, it's never old, but it's never easy.
right.
If you wanna apply yourself, you think about it all the time. It's not like, oh, I only think about it when I come here.
In your training, when did you feel the let go of, like, I've heard jiu-jitsu practitioners talk about pretty soon you just kind of let go and you just go with the flow or whatever, and you get to a moment where you're just doing and it just comes to you. Whereabouts in your training did that start happening for you, and then you knew this was just going to be your lifelong decision? And
That's funny because Marcelo came, and when I think when I got somewhere in my blue belt, he goes, yeah, you need to be one of my assistant instructors. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's a big title for Marcelo. So when he's not here, but with that being said, I didn't really understand what that implied, what was going to have to be the work involved. And so Marcelo is very good. When I taught a class, he would come, he would watch it, he'd watch how I broke down techniques, and then he'd pull me aside afterwards and either correct me or say, yeah, that was good. So I would work on this stuff even not at class, always practicing, breaking down techniques and watching people's games and doing all of this stuff, and then training really hard all the time as it was. I think it's really important. I try to foster that and continue that because that's what it's all about, is I tell my guys that, your natural athleticism and strength is great. I would put that aside for a while and work on technique and develop your technique to such a high level. Now you can sprinkle in your athleticism, everything else, your strength, your whatever it is. And
you could call upon that like an army or something when you need it, but
Yep.
but you already have the strategy up front.
But
So
it's
yeah.
usually the flip-flop.
Right.
You have brand new people and they're using all of that. And I'm like, hey, try to take a step back from that and really, really at least help build your technical knowledge along with it to keeping your conditioning up. And believe me, it will first of all, it will save your body somewhat because your body gets trashed. And,
Yes.
And it will enlighten you, and it will keep you hungry for jiu-jitsu. Because a lot of people, they start out chasing medals. They want to chase medals, they want to chase belts. But when we don't have as much of that, it's like, what is it now?
Do you
You've
feel
gotta
the
love
athletes?
sport.
Sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. Do you feel the athletes are chasing their ego, and at one point or another, jiu-jitsu relieves them of their ego at one point as they advance in the rankings?
I think so. I think what it does, one of the things it does is, I get one example. I get a lot of military. I get a fair amount of Marines come in, and just great people, and and the kill or be killed mentality. But when they get here, they start realizing it's not that they can roll, and it doesn't matter if they get tapped. Who cares? They're just learning and rolling, and then you see a sigh of relief on them, going, "Wow, I can actually have fun and get into this and just have a ball." And man, and then they have a community of like-minded people.
Yes.
That they hang out with. Like tonight, we'll probably go out and have a beer right after, right down at the brewery, or it's kid-friendly, so the kids can come, everybody can come, and they have non-alcoholic beverages and stuff, so everybody just hangs out, and it's a team-building thing.
That's fantastic.
And that's the important thing for me. Yeah.
I guess that leads me very much into the next question. How did COVID affect your business, your gym, from the beginning of the pandemic throughout, and how did you guys recover?
That's interesting because I think, wow, what was the big 2020? I guess the whole thing right at the beginning.
Right.
I think that December of 19, a lot of people were sick in there, got over it. And the whole thing, which probably I wouldn't be surprised if it was. My daughter's pediatrician said she's pretty sure it was here as of November. So, but naturally, nobody's going to say anything on that. So we kept training until I guess it was February when they put all these mandates, Inslee and all that put all the mandates. I'm like, man, I don't have a choice anymore. I'm going to have to. So I closed, and I said, what we're going to do is we're going to close. We probably closed for a month and a half, and we started doing Zoom classes, which was all right, but it wasn't much. Once Kitsap County moved into 2, because they were some of the first, because we had low COVID numbers, I wanted to start opening it up because our bank account was really, really low. It was like I could barely make the rent here, and no income, no nothing to me. I don't take an income from this at all. So I just give the money back to the gym here, and so that wasn't hard because I'm not doing it in the first place. But it was difficult just to make the rent. I'm like making a couple $100. I was in my bank account was a couple $100 after paying all the bills every month. I'm like, oh man. But the students were incredible. They were helping, and I didn't expect that. I go, hey, I don't expect that. We got to close down. I mean, you guys have bills to pay and all that, and I'm not providing a service except Zoom, which isn't realistic in jiu-jitsu. And so really, really low. It was an all-time low. They went into phase 2, and I said, well, this is what we're going to do. Luckily, Don Saunders down there, the black belt, he's also a PhD. He's a doctor. And he goes, you know what, George? He goes, well, I was talking. I go, man, I'm looking at the website. Got to have a COVID response plan and all that. And he goes, leave it to me. He went to the state's website of COVID, and he tailor-made a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu COVID response plan.
Wow.
So we have the response plan downstairs. We have you saw the little signs up there if you have cold symptoms. We were taking temperatures. We had, you can still see remnants down there of the blue tape. So people could only train with 5 people or whatever it was at that time. So we did that. That lasted a little while, but not long. It's jiu-jitsu. Everybody's hugging each other outside. When they're done, they're hugging. So I'm like, we're going to start training. The second time he closed it down, I said, no, you're going to have to close me down. This is ridiculous. People need a healthy outlet.
I agree.
The parents thanked me so much. You're not closing? No. Oh my gosh, because the kids were going crazy at home. They're getting depressed.
They got to get that energy out, yeah.
We had one COVID case up here, and then we closed down, did deep cleaning for a week, opened it up. Health department called me and said, yeah, we noticed you had one. I go, yeah, and this is what we did, our COVID response plan. We did this. She goes, you have a COVID response plan? This was the health department. I go, yeah, we do this and this. Oh my gosh, you're ahead of every other business I've talked to. Okay, you're fine. And that was it.
Wow.
Because, and it's like, people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. We've been very transparent. We've been like, hey, we're going to train. She goes, you guys spar too without masks? And I go, yes, we do.
Yeah, it would be very hard to have a mask on and spar.
It's very unhealthy to have a mask on and exercise. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like having a exhaust pipe, like a catalytic converter and restricting your exhaust, right? For a car. I was also going to say that arguably some of the healthiest people in the world are the ones that are in the athletic industry or gyms, especially jiu-jitsu, based on diet, based on a lot of the principles that Brazilian jiu-jitsu
Definitely.
honors. And so I was always thinking, like, I would be more worried about someone that wasn't active, that wasn't didn't have a high immune system already, because we know that exercise and proper eating can probably help boost your immune system. It's medically
yeah.
documented. I would be more worried about the people that didn't do that than people that did. So
And the people that got it got over it. Tim got it. He had a little headache the night before. Was done. He had to test. He had to get tested and all that because he worked for the shipyard.
Yep.
And then took 10 days off, but it was like a 10-day vacation. His wife got it. Same thing. A little headache. Done. Because they stay healthy. They,
they train.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
train. They supplement. And that's the big thing is like, I mean, for crying out loud, listen to a naturopath.
Yep.
They've been crying this whole time on zinc, vitamin C, on selenium, on iodine, all this stuff. My naturopath been saying, I've been preaching this the whole time, and people are like, now they're like, oh, I guess it is. Vitamin D. Oh, wow, it does.
Vitamin D is such a savior. I take probably 20,000 units of it. D3, 20,000 units a day.
And they have so many documented medical cases on, oh my
Right.
gosh, this works. But naturally that doesn't make money, so it's like it's going to be suppressed. And
Right.
I'm like, call it what it is. People know it. I'm singing to the choir, right? Everybody knows what's going on. It's what you choose to follow. Me, I'm going to follow my own path, and it is the BJJ lifestyle. Gracie's, especially under that, they're phenomenal. Orion, Hoist, Elio, all of that under that.
Kron now, right? Hickson.
Well, now see, Hickson and Kron, Gracie. Hickson was into MMA, right?
Right.
And they probably would never admit it, but he would train with Carlson, Gracie, my instructor, more because Carlson was the innovator in MMA. He was
Really?
back in the day. He had a team of monsters.
Yeah.
So for innovation, I wanted to go there because they were self-defense.
Yes.
Excellent self-defense. Now, Marcelo, he made me do all the self-defense, hammer all the self-defense. When I tested for my black belt, I had to show everything in self-defense under live conditions, all this stuff. But he also showed the sporting aspect, which is still, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But they took the sporting aspect to another level now.
Yeah.
Because thing is you're going against somebody that knows something now.
Yeah.
That might be your equal. It's not some knucklehead on the street
Right.
that might not know anything that you demolish and get out of Dodge. I have to stay there.
It's a chess match among.
Yeah. And it's a combative style, so it's body to body. So
Right.
they learn that pressure. They learn that, and they learn to I go, guys, you got to learn to enjoy the fight. You got to learn, if you want to compete, you got to learn to enjoy stepping out on the mat and doing it. If you don't, then don't put your body through it and don't waste your money on it. I go, but if you can develop it, and the first part of developing that is not worrying so much about the outcome of the fight, but playing your game and being in the moment.
Yeah.
Being in the moment of the fight and go like, wow, this is so cool. This is neat, It wasn't my day. I didn't get it. Okay. And it's hard for people. I see a lot in a lot of schools that they don't foster that and they don't build on it. Maybe they try. I try everything to build on it, to say, hey, you guys are going to put enough pressure on yourself. I don't need to put any more pressure on you to win. I go, all I ask is you to go in and play your game. Go in there and do what you do. And if you're looking and go, man, that guy does what I do, just keep doing it.
Don't second guess yourself.
Yeah,
Get in there and get it.
Don't change because
Right.
that's when things happen.
Yep.
And here, I like all jiu-jitsu. I like all the different styles. We pay Berimbolo, we pay De La Riva, reverse De La Riva, half guard, quarter guard. We play all of them. A lot of inversions.
Inversions. Going forward, I'm going to have to ask you to demonstrate some of these techniques on me. I would really love it, and I'm sure the followers would love to see me get choked out at least a couple of times. I know my wife probably would. My wife would definitely love to see me get choked out because whatever. But please don't make me go to sleep. But I just wanted to compliment you on the total feel of your gym, by the way, and
Thank you.
how it's such a family style gym. Is that what you encourage in your gym? Is that typical in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms that you're in your experience, or is it more singular to here, or how do you feel?
I think in some, yes. You know, I always preach when I say, first and foremost, this is a family. Second of all, it's a BJJ academy. And third, it's a business. I'm not a very good businessman, that's for sure. Look at my bank account. But the thing is I wanted people to fight hard, train hard, but at the end of the day, we're all just family. You know, that's why at the end we line up, we shake hands, I bow to one student, he comes, the next, they get beside me and they shake hands and bow to that next student. They might have had a hard match and maybe got cranked up a little bit and got it cranked on a little too hard. They got to bow to each other and hug each other, which breaks that.
Yes.
You know, it breaks it down and goes, hey, it is what it is.
Leave it on the mat.
Yeah.
Leave it on the mat.
And you know, and everybody has an ego, and everybody will have an ego. It doesn't matter. You know, keep your ego at the door. We're big on that, but you still have some. You know, that's the thing. It is what it is, and you know that's what I say. But we try to control them the best that we can. You know.
One final question, and this is something that I've been seeing in a lot of athletic industries, and based on my research, what are your thoughts on intensity versus distance, or like a marathon versus a sprint? You see certain gyms like, all right, 5 more, and you know, going hard. You know, for 3 rounds, you're gonna roll. You know, have your white belts roll with really hard brown belts or whatever. You know, super intense. Or would you rather see somebody just come every day and get a little bit of training, low intensity, build up?
Excellent question. Excellent. Tim, you met Tim.
Yes.
He's a beast.
Yes.
He trains 6 days a week.
Wow.
Sometimes 7. The guy's probably my top. He's getting close. He's getting ready for brown belt. He's very, very tough. I show most of the techniques on him when I'll go down there and show techniques. I'll show them on him. But he was starting to get injuries. And I said, Tim, you need to back down a little. You can't go hard every day. We're talking about going hard all the time, right?
Yeah.
I go once or twice a week, go hard. The other days, play. He came to me later and he goes, oh, Professor, he goes, man, it's so cool. He goes, you know, when I'm playing with someone and I'm not trying to force my intent and let him come, I usually get better. I have better technique and able to pull off more things from that because I'm not trying to, no, I'm going to force this through. Oh, he's doing this, I'm going to go this way. And I go, that's what jiu-jitsu is. Jiu-jitsu, they say, is a gentle art. I don't really think it is because it's very punishing sometimes.
Yeah.
But the whole goal is to make it that. Make it where your force is coming to you. I want to redirect it and capture something. And then you come back, I redirect it and go somewhere else until I get to a position where I can submit you, take your back, sweep you, whatever the position is, you know. And that's the thing, is like, people are like, oh, that's not realistic. Yeah, it is realistic. Look at the little guys.
Yeah.
You know, look at these guys that are, you know, are they weak? No, they're not weak.
Not at all.
Because grappling strength is grappling strength. It doesn't matter if you're 100 pounds or 190 pounds. They're strong for their size. They latch on to you. You got to carry them around like luggage.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, what? Oh, I never really thought about that. I go, yeah. It's tough. It's like, that wears you down. Now you got to carry your body weight and their body weight. You stand up with them and they're all like a little kid. You know, and then they're already doing something else. So now you're behind.
It's so interesting because when you look at a really advanced jiu-jitsu practitioner, and you also look at, say, predators in the jungle, such as snakes, boa constrictors, things of that nature, you notice these animals just naturally can wrap themselves around and strangle out their opponents and wear them down, you know, or not opponents, I guess in the jungle it's their prey, right? In jiu-jitsu, I feel like that's the same thing. When you, it's almost like a predatory thing, and you see when the magic happens and an opponent or the practitioner gets to that point and they get their hooks in, and you can see the body manipulation and then bang, the submission happens.
It's, you know, it's like, and notice they'll go with it. If they're rolling, they'll roll with them. Because that's the whole thing, because as they roll, it gets tighter and tighter. And that's what I tell people, you know, if you have a submission in, I'm not going to try to stop that person. They're going to go, but as they go, I try to tighten it up and tighten it up and tighten it up, so you get the desired outcome. You know?
Right. Without having to exert that much energy.
And that's the whole thing, and that's the hard thing. People are like, man, like submission-only tournaments,
Yeah.
they're tough because
Yeah.
you're just hunting submissions. And people know they don't have to worry about points. They just have to worry about defending submissions, so it's hard. You're constantly setting up things.
It's crazy. Well, Professor, I think that answers all of our questions that we have. I would be honored to ask you to demonstrate a couple of techniques on me. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure, sure. Do you want to do it downstairs or right here? Where would you like?
Wherever you're most comfortable. This is your house, sir.
You know, let's go down there because I'll see where they're at too. Because I might have to jump in and show what we're going to be doing in the class too.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Professor. Thank you. Thank you.